Hello, friends. Welcome back to Great People Interview Series, Season 2. Let's welcome our guest, Eithne. Please welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
Friends, we have a very, very different topic today, and that is transforming a company to employee ownership trust. In a nutshell, an employee is owning, or the employees are owning the company. And that's how this company that Eithne runs has been through that journey of 28, 30 years of founder growing that company and then finally kind of handing it over to the employees. Hey, this is your company now, run with it. Let's try and understand. It looks very, very exciting, isn't it? The owner kind of gives away the company to the employees, all the employees owning the company. So lots of people have this dream of becoming an entrepreneur, but they don't, for whatever reason, they don't go on to that path or can't go on that path. Then, hey, this is an amazing opportunity where you, being an employee, take that entrepreneurship kind of role and become the part of this wonderful company. Welcome, Eithne. Please tell us about yourself and a little bit of your journey before we dive into the topic.
Sachin, your excitement is, or your energetic excitement about this is contagious, I have to admit. And I feel and share in that excitement. I'm delighted to have this opportunity. So maybe starting with a little about me. So I'm the CEO of DeltaXignia. So trading as DeltaXignia, legally registered as DeltaXML Limited. It's a 30-year-old business founded by a guy called Robin LaFontaine. There was a little iteration, company name way back, and then it became DeltaXML Limited. And the inception of the company for Robin was he's Cambridge educated and had this idea around tracking change, where it's really important to have precision tracking. It was originally intended for the design of electrical circuits, as an example. So he came up with this invention and patented it. So our technology is still patented, and that's a very important kind of core of our business too. That innovation and we're constantly looking for new ideas for innovation, but we can go back to that a bit later. So we got this 30-year-old business founded by this very clever guy, and he runs it for 30 years, but never really wanted to be leading a large organization. So he kept it kind of nice and tidy, if you like. So it's a small, mature 30-year-old business. And then he gets to his early 70s and he's thinking, because none of us live forever, we're going to be thinking about what's next. So he's thinking about his legacy and where does the company go. And he being quite principled, a very socially conscious chap, he then looked at employee ownership as a good option to basically bequeath his legacy to, if you like, and then ensure that it was in the hands of people who cared for the business, who understood it, and also to care for the employees within the business. So in July 24, the company changed from being founder owned, 100% owned and led, to an employee ownership trust. And there was then a search for a new CEO to lead that business. And I thankfully was offered the role and took that up and went on this journey, which we're now a little over a year into. And we've got the first year of full employee ownership under our belt. And we're now into the second year of maturity and learning on how to be an EOT, employee ownership trust.
Wow, that's fantastic. Well, just leading on to the topic now. Uh, so tell us a little bit more about what is this employee-owned trust? Of course, we understand, Robin, who had this patented technology, was looking for a succession, as you explained, and that's kind of was, I guess, the point where he said, "Well, this is a solution for what I'm looking for." But then, what exactly it is, and how what benefits it offers, how it works.
Okay, so there are many different models to employee ownership, but the one that we've chosen is employee ownership trust, where the employees need to have the majority share of the business before that can happen. So and then you know legal papers are put together, the trust deed, various supporting kind of governance documents that support how that trust is to be set up, who will run it, who will be overseeing it, and so that all of the legal elements are put in place. So that's the first step, and all the paperwork is signed. Great. So then we have to actually get that governance structure in place, and that is the employee. That's basically the employee ownership trustees, and that's made up of two external trustees who may or may not know the company, but they're there to do a job of governance and oversight. Two internal employee trustees, and then any other kind of major shareholder. So Robin is still a shareholder at the table. He doesn't have the majority share anymore. The employees do, but he's also on the trustee board. So that's the board. They meet quarterly. Their responsibilities to ensure the financial and operational health of the business and to ensure it's being run in the right way for the employees. But they always have the lens of the employee population. And that very much shapes what it is that we will bring to them and tell them about each quarter. They absolutely want to see the P&L and the balance sheet and any filings and all of that kind of the financial health of the business. But they may be less concerned about the strategic direction, but they will be very concerned about employee benefits and profit sharing and those kind of topics. So they very much have a specific lens on the business, and that's been part of the learning curve this year. What do we need to tell them about? What are the key topics that we have to bubble up, and at what level do we need to inform them of? We are very lucky with our two external trustees. One of them is a legal eagle. He's actually the guy who legally set up our trust. One from a very kind of one of the leading EOT legal firms in the UK. And the other trustee, and that's been really helpful for me actually, is the CEO of a company. He's the founder and CEO of a company who sold the entirety of his business to the employees, but remained the CEO. So now he works for his employees, which is a really nice dynamic. And he's one of our trustees, and he's been gold for me in giving me some direction and mentoring and guidance on things that we need to tell the trustees. So that's been a really nice aspect of the story. So that's the governance, the oversight. We have our own board, and this is a level above the board that looks after the company for the employees.
Wow, that's amazing. That's very different to what we normally hear about the company structures and so on. Um, Now, obviously, a simple employee would be thinking, okay, now that I am the owner of this company, without necessarily having the shares in my name, which well, that's just a legal paper, so I don't really care about that. Um, so I have been an employee just before June 24, and now June 24, it becomes my company. I'm kind of the owner. What changes for me in terms of financial benefits? Does it immediately start paying me a lot more than my salary, or how does it work?
Well, that would be lovely and quite magic if it did. But no, we all live in the real world, so that's not how it works. But there is a very kind of there is a very interesting path ahead for those folks. So initially, and every employee ownership trust starts with debt because that's how they acquire themselves. They have to buy themselves. So there is a debt that's normally on an EOT, and it could be for the first 3, 5, 7 years, depending on the valuation of the company and the majority shareholding that they take of the business. And then that loan repayment is scheduled according to what the P&L can do in a given year. And over what period. So that's the basic kind of plan, and the management then of the repayments of that. So that means in the initial years, especially when the company's trying to grow as well as be an EOT, that puts a lot of there's a lot of kind of dynamics in the P&L that have to be supported, and so there isn't kind of a lot of free cash running around. However, companies on a growth plan will have projections into the future, and will know obviously when their repayments will be complete. And we were able to lay out a projection of, well, when we get here, and assuming we have achieved everything that we wanted to achieve, or even overachieved. Here's when things start to get interesting. Here's what you can expect to see.
Right.
Under the employee ownership model, and it's currently the case, it didn't change in the last budget. Some things did change, but the employee profit share allocation per head per year is 3,600 tax-free. So it means as a company, we can pay that to each member of staff as profit sharing, without paying tax. National insurance applies, but tax doesn't. So that makes it, sweetens it and makes it easier for the company to support that. So that's the monetary side of things. But like you said, one day I'm sitting there and I'm an employee of a company, and the next day I'm a part owner. How does that work? And you're right. You don't suddenly, okay, we've signed some papers and we're now an employee ownership trust, and suddenly everybody's got this magic knowledge that they know how to run a business. Of course they do. So that becomes a learning curve for absolutely everybody. That they need to get under the hood of what is our business, not just the bit that they work in, not just the the role that they play, but the overall entity. Who are our customers? What problems are we solving for our customers? How are we doing that? How are they using our solutions? Where are the additional opportunities to help our customers? How are we billing them? What's the profit look like in that? What are the costs within our business? All of the elements, we start to try and open up and I guess make a little bit more transparent for our team, so they start to understand the nuts and bolts and the cogs and how things work step by step, and not in the nitty-gritty detail, just in the general kind of how things work, from a how things work perspective.
Yeah, it's good for them to now that have visibility and a view of what's happening with the company overall, rather than only about my work and my project. So I think it's kind of opens up their view of the world. At the same time, while we're saying that the employees or the company will have to pay their debts first, and then there will be that day when all the debts are paid, and I think you called it Freedom Day.
That's what the employee. So there's an association for employee ownership companies called the Employee Ownership Association, UK based. They support all companies in England, Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland, and they term it Freedom Day, and it seems to be widely adopted. I recently attended the EOA conference, which was a gathering of lots of employee ownership companies from across the United Kingdom, and that was a commonly used term. And I can understand the reason why, because it is it is a bit of a straitjacket initially. There's a lot of tight budget management, cash flow management to make that happen. And so
Yeah.
once that debt is off your shoulders, you can see why they call it Freedom Day. It gives you a lot more room for maneuver.
Yeah. So uh, for this company, if all goes according to the plans, um, is this Freedom Day a few years in ahead, or is it uh, quite in near future?
So for us, it's a 3-year payment plan. We're just about to see to year 2, and that would then leave us with just one more to go. So it's actually been quite a short journey for us. 3 years total, and when we're finished, some companies will have much longer. It depends on the size and the value, right?
Yeah.
So we're a small business. We have 25 people. A couple of $1 million revenue per year. So that's kind of an easier, although it's all relative, but it's not been a long journey for us.
Wow. So in 3 years' time, you will get to your Freedom Day, and then from there on, this debt is gone. Does that mean again that at that point in time, any profit that comes in actually belongs to the employees and will be distributed to the employees? Is that
So we have a growth path, right? We have ambitious plans for our business. We want to um, more than double our revenue in the next number of years.
wow?
That will come with additional staff members, maybe not doubling the team members, depending if we can do kind of
Yeah.
flexible hybrid roles. But there's a significant reinvestment to power that growth, of course. And so that's where our board and our EOT trustees come in, because it will be a balance between what level of this profit do we reinvest and do we need to reinvest to power our growth, and what have we got left to do some profit sharing. And that's where our employee trustees will represent our team at the table in that discussion. And we all want to be part and capitalize and maximize our opportunity. And we have a massive opportunity right now. We always have had a massive opportunity. But now we have the ambition and growth to support it, and the external market factors are also driving in that direction. Data is the new gold. We play in the data space. We play across the IT information landscape. So it wouldn't make sense that we don't invest to grow to capitalize on the opportunity. So we then need to kind of temper our expectations of profit sharing in the interest of our longer term growth and profitability.
As you rightly said, you are probably in the right market at the right time. Everything looks so right and good for the company to grow. And you mentioned that you would probably like to invest in order to grow. So where do you see you would have to invest in order to grow the organization? Which areas you want to obviously improve or grow in order for that company as an overall to grow?
We're change management specialists in complex documents, but complex documents and data. We are really, really, really strong in complex documentation. And that's probably where we've spent more of our time and focus in building out the features and functionality of our software in the last 30 years, because that is a complex thing to solve.
Yeah.
Data is less complex than complex documentation, the technical
Yeah.
manuals with images and diagrams and so on.
Yeah.
And they're multi-level as well in terms of metadata and structure of those files and formats. Data is simpler, and there's a simpler kind of pitch there. We have many content use cases in our install base, and many global leading customers that are using our software. They're highly regulated, and they're using it to support change in complex documentation. We're in workflows, we're in content management systems. On the data side, we have some use cases in our install base, but the opportunity for growth is enormous. Changes in network configuration, all of those recent global outages like Cloudflare and so on, really basic errors and kind of changes in DNS entries. And that's
Yeah.
where we play, and that's where we can play. But it's just one of the places we could be plugged in to help with where change matters and having that detailed precision tracking and auditability trail of that change. So that's the major space that we're going to invest in. Our software already does the job. What we need to invest in is identifying all of the use cases and then articulating them in the right way so that we're speaking to CIOs globally and that they can see the advantage of that across their IT landscape. So that's a major area of focus. And then obviously as we scale out that part of our business, we need, marketeers, sellers, the additional kind of go-to-market infrastructure to support, and then the additional R&D and engineering team members to take that element and those data use cases and figure out, okay, so we're playing in these spaces now, and while our software works at scale, speed, size, and 100% accuracy already, what are the additional things that we may need to add for particular use cases that make our software where we can meet customers' challenges better with our existing software with these incremental add-ons. So as you start to kind of grow the business in a certain direction, you have all of the other supporting roles and functions and things that's needed to support that business growth.
Absolutely. Well, that's amazing. I think it was great to know this different kind of company structure. It was great to know how the company is growing. It's doing some niche work. Of course, it is patented, and well, it's great to know that the CEO is speaking about the growth plans. There's absolute clarity. There is a path laid down, so there is no stopping from you and your company growing from this point. So, with that, let me thank you for your time, for this wonderful insights and amazing conversation.
Thank you, Sachin. I really appreciate it. And
Thank
thank
you
you to
so much
all of
once
you.
again. Yeah, I think it was amazing to get the clarity around, the structure of the company, the way it works, the employee mindset, and so on. So many things that we kind of revealed when we talk about company structures are something that people take so lightly. But I think this is great to understand how it kind of builds an ecosystem for the growth. And well, what better you can expect, uh, from a CEO who's got absolute clarity on how we are growing, how we are communicating. That's amazing to see.
So maybe just on the as a last point on EOT. So you got from me and all of us as a team, we're delighted to be an employee ownership company. And I mentioned earlier, I was at the EOA conference, and that's where 800 leaders of employee ownership companies from across the UK meet. Some really well-known employee ownership companies. Now I'm going to forget what it was. There's a leading department store. John Lewis is an employee ownership company. Yeah,
It is, yeah.
and it's a growing trend across the UK now. The capital gains tax on becoming EOT was 100% capital gains tax free up until the recent budget, and they've slashed that to 50%, which is a little bit of a shame. But even so, if you're going to go down the EOT route, you'll be doing that for more than just monetary reasons. You'll be doing that for legacy and benefit of your team and kind of long-term thinking and sustainability of your business. And with that trend of these companies getting into this and that being a growing trend, not just in the UK, but in the United States, across Europe, many other countries are looking at official ways to allow companies to become employee owned. So it's a bit of a global trend, and it's very much in the way of socially responsible capitalism, because we've seen the shift in wealth across our planet. It's kind of just gone really lopsided in some
Yes.
way. And and this is one of the ways, and the UN is behind this one as well, where, if we can drive this at a national level, then you start to try and readjust that spread of wealth and share an equitable share of wealth across the planet. Because as employee owners, as in an employee ownership trust, when profit sharing is possible, it comes to the employees who live in communities, and then they will be buying goods and services in the communities, and then that share of wealth happens and stays locally within the community. Whereas if it's another type of model, and the models that we're used to working in,
Yeah.
the profit share goes to some unseen shareholder, nobody knows, it has no relationship, or maybe does, but we don't know, to the business. Mostly they don't.
Yeah.
And the wealth is gone.
Yeah.
So this really starts to reshape, and has the potential to reshape, our thinking globally, and reshape the equitable spread of wealth globally as well. So on that basis, and I come at business from that mindset, maybe a socialist capitalist, it really is, and can be, can bring quite that kind of change that we really need across the world, where we start to get this kind of more socially minded way of being. And a lot of those EOTs come with, that kind of community thought as well. We're thinking about what we're giving back to the community, how we're engaging. So there's a lot more to it than just that, the little story with inside the company. There's a
Yes.
growing
Yes.
potential ripple effect across the world if this can gain traction.
Absolutely. No, I think you put the light on much broader perspective than just looking at those employees are feeling delighted.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's going to change. And you said there are 800 companies already. Of course, we knew about John Lewis, but we didn't we didn't kind of know enough to understand how it works unless you have been employee of John Lewis. But then talking to you, we came to know a little more. I think this perspective of spreading the wealth across the society rather than a few members holding on to it is a far deeper reason to doing this and promoting this. So we'll do our bit at London School of Digital Business to take this message back to the community, show it to the entrepreneurs who are looking at this, and appeal to them that, well, do you want to dive into this and create something which is legacy at the same time? It's amazing way of being.
Exactly. Thank you.
Thank you once again for your time.